Hello students, welcome to SVM Library. Today we are going to study chapter 4 of our textbook Hornbill, titled Landscape of the Soul, written by Nathalie Troweroy. This chapter, Landscape of the Soul, consists of two parts. In first part, the writer contrasts Chinese art with European art by recounting two stories about Chinese painting and the other one about European paintings. And the second part is about an article written by Brinda Suri, published in Hindustan Times, dated 28 August 2005. The author, Nathalie Troweroy, is an art historian who came in limelight because of her translated work City of Jinns, a book by William Dalrymple. She is the wife of Belgian ambassador to India. She has traveled various cities of the world with her husband. She holds a master's degree in history of art and archaeology from University of Belgium. She planned to write her next book on Old Delhi architecture like Jama Masjid and Chandni Chowk. This chapter is a comparative study of European and Chinese painting. It touches upon various subtleties of reality and art. Art is one of the forms of expression like poetry, music, and dance. All these forms of expression have an abstract nature, as they can't be defined and have to be felt or experienced. The chapter has three important areas of discussion: anecdotes related to Chinese and European painting, Taoism, and how one of the philosophical doctrines of Taoism called Shen Shui is reflected in Chinese painting. The 8th century Chinese emperor Zhongzong commissioned a landscape by Wu Daozi to decorate a palace wall. The master hid his work behind a screen. Only the emperor could see it. The emperor admired the wonderful scene. He discovered forests, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds floating in the enormous sky, men on hilly paths, and birds in flight. Then the painter asked the king respectfully to look in a cave at the foot of the mountain. He said a spirit lived there. The painter clapped his hands. The entrance to the cave opened. The painter remarked that the cave was very splendid from inside. He offered to show the way to His Majesty. The painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him. The emperor was astonished. Before he could move or speak a word, the painting had vanished from the wall. Not a sign of Wu Daozi's brush was left. The artist was never seen again. This was his last painting. Wu Daozi, also known as Daoxian, was a Chinese artist of the Tang dynasty. Only some of his works survive. The image of stepping into a painting is a symbolic representation of an inner event, the withdrawal of oneself from the world into a kind of secular aesthetic paradise. Take another famous Chinese story about a painter. He would not draw the eye of a dragon he had painted. He feared that it would fly out of the painting. Such stories played an important part in China's traditional education. The books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of them. In 15th century, Antwerp, a skilled blacksmith named Quentin Matsys fell in love with the painter's daughter. The father of the girl would not accept a son-in-law in such a profession. One day, Quentin went into the painter's studio secretly. He painted a fly on the master's latest painting. It was painted with delicate realism. The painter took it for a real one. He tried to hid it away. Then he realized the matter. He took Quentin as an apprentice. Then Quentin married his beloved. He went on to become one of the most famous painters of his age. Quentin Matsys was a Flemish painter in the early Netherlandish tradition and a founder of the Antwerp School. The above stories from China and Flanders illustrate what each form of art is trying to achieve. In Europe, the aim is a perfect illusionistic likeness. The Chinese emperor gets a painting painted. He appreciates its outer appearance. The artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. A Western painting reproduces an actual view. The European painter wants the beholders to look at a particular landscape from a specific angle. That is exactly as he saw it. The Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. His landscape is not a real one. One can enter it from any point and travel in it in a leisurely movement. This is more true in the case of horizontal scroll. Here one slowly opens one section of the painting, then rolls it up and moves on to the other. This adds a dimension of time. It also requires the active participation of the viewer, a participation which is physical as well as mental. The European painter wants the viewer to borrow his eyes. The Chinese painter does not want him to do so. He wants the viewer to enter his mind. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. This concept is expressed as Shen-shui, which literally means mountain water. Mountain water, used together, they represent the word landscape. The mountain is yang, while the water is yin. The interaction of yin and yang is a fundamental notion of Taoism. There is a third essential element also, the middle void, where their interaction takes place. This can be compared with the yogic practice of pranayama, breath in, retain, breathe out. The suspension of breath is the void where meditation occurs. The middle void is essential. Nothing can happen without it. Hence, the white, unpainted space is very important in Chinese landscape. Man finds a fundamental role in this space between heaven and earth. He becomes the medium of communication between both poles of the universe. His presence is essential. He is the eye of the landscape. Francois Chang gives a wonderful expression about man. He says, man is the eye of landscape. Man is the middle of nature and exchanges with her. Man is the center of life. The entire creation plan is incomplete without him. Man plays the key role in linking heaven and earth. He is the channel of communication between both the worlds. As the human body is incomplete without the eye, so the entire creation is incomplete without man. Hence, he is the eye of the landscape. Here is example of Chinese landscape painting and Western landscape painting. Highlights of Chinese landscape painting. A classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view. The Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. His landscape is not a real one and you can enter it from any point. Then travel in it. The artist creates a path for your eyes to travel up and down, then back again in a leisurely movement. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes. He wants you to enter his mind. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. What is conceptual space? Conceptual space refers to relation with the abstract than the factual representation. This is the incalculable dimension of the understanding of concepts. Highlights of European landscape painting. Delicate realism, a perfect illusionistic likeness, figurative painting. The European painter wants you to borrow his eyes and look at a particular landscape exactly as he saw it from a specific angle. What is delicate realism? It refers to the alluring quality of the art which makes it seem real. It is an interest in or concern for the actual or real as opposed to abstract. Illusionistic likeness. It refers to an adjective of the technique of using pictorial methods in order to deceive the eye. The reference is to an illusion created by the semblance of something. In Taoism, a landscape is called Shen Shui. Shen means mountain, Shui means water. However, it does not represent a real landscape. It is the Taoist view of the universe. To understand Chinese painting, one must understand Taoism. So, the mountains and water in the Chinese paintings are representative of Shen Shui, and the unpainted space is representative of the middle void. Here in this picture, Yang is mountain reaching vertically towards heaven, stable, warm and dry in the sun. And the qualities of Yin are, it is water, horizontal and resting on the earth, fluid, moist and cool. This concept is expressed as Shen Shui, literally mountain water, which used together represent the world landscape. More than two elements of an image, these represent two complementary poles reflecting the Taoist view of the universe. Some of the common associations with Yang and Yin, respectively, are male and female, light and dark, active and passive, motion and stillness. The Yin and Yang symbol represents the philosophy of balance, where two opposites coexist in harmony and are able to transmute into each other. In the Yin Yang symbol, there is a dot of Yin in Yang and a dot of Yang is Yin. This symbolizes the interconnectedness of the opposite forces. Therefore, the independent principles of Yin and Yang are actually dependent on one another for each other's distinguishable existence. In a landscape painting, empty space often indicates cloud, mist. In Chinese landscape painting, painters always empt their personal feelings and emotion into the image rather than just depict the details and exact appearance of the object. As a result, viewers can see a lot of white spaces and broad strokes on Chinese landscape. Now here, the word void is described. Void means suspension of breath, interaction between Yang and Yin, that is called meditation. What is often overlooked is an essential third element, the middle void, where their interaction takes place. This can be compared with the yogic practice of pranayama. As I told you, breathe in, retain, breathe out. The suspension of breath is the void, where meditation occurs. Now, come to the second part of the chapter. That is Getting Inside Outsiders Art, written by Brinda Suri. In this article, Brinda Suri expressed that French painter Jean Dubuffet first created the concept of art brut or raw art in the 1940s. Then the art of the untrained visionary was of minority interest. The outsider art has gradually become the fastest growing area of interest in international modern art. This particular type of work is the creation of those who have no right to be artists, as they have received no formal training, yet they show talent and artistic insight. Outsider art is art by self-taught or naive art makers. Typically, those labeled as outsider artists have little or no contact with the mainstream art world or art institutions. In many cases, their work is discovered only after their deaths. Art brut, literally translated from French, means raw art. Raw is that it has not been through the cooking process, the world of art schools, galleries, museums. Nekchand Saini was a self-taught Indian artist known for building the rock garden of Chandigarh and 18-acre sculpture garden in the city of Chandigarh. The Rock Garden of Chandigarh is a sculpture garden in Chandigarh, India. It is also known as Nekchand's Rock Garden after its founder Nekchand Saini, a government official who started the garden secretly in his spare time in 1957. Today it is spread over an area of 40 acres. It is completely built of industrial and home waste and discarded items. In Nekchand's words, all the stones have a soul. They are alive. The stones are like gods and goddesses. There is life in them. Anything and everything from a tin to a sink to a broken down car could be material for a work of art. Materials used in the construction of the rock garden range from concrete and steel drums to light switches, broken bathroom sinks, terracotta scrap, and bicycle frames. Highlights include a legend of dancing girls made from broken glass bangles and a graceful arcade of towering arcs with dangling rope swings. The work of 80-year-old Nekchand is India's biggest contribution to outsider art. He has made a garden sculpted with stone and recycled material. It is known to the world today as the Rock Garden at Chandigarh. His art has been recognized as an outstanding testimony of the difference a single man can make when he lives his dream. With this, we have done the explanation of this chapter, Landscape of the Soul. That's all for today. Thank you.